My hand smells like gasoline and motor oil.
That's definitely someone's fetish. Hey everybody, and welcome to Two Guys in a Shed. As always, we are your hosts,
Jordan
and Ethan, and you are listening to episode 2. We're still here. Somehow, we have yet to be removed from the internet properly. So Today we're taking kind of an unusual step. We had planned to continue along off of the last episode, going from adventuring gear to magical gear, but we thought we were going to take a step back and actually explain how you should, like, the actual beginning, the beginning of all of it. You know, we're making a character, the beginning of the gear, the beginning is your backstory.
Yes.
That's what we're going over today. We're going over your character's backstory.
Yeah, and not just, like, going for, like, the background features for the character builder, but actually coming up with a backstory. Why should you make a backstory? Well, there are a lot of, reasons story-wise, but at the end of the day, it's so that you can understand your character and become invested into your character's life. If you don't, like any good book or any good movie, you learn a lot about the character's life before the book, and that helps you become better invested into who they are.
Can you give me an example of a book or movie that has their backstory involved?
Iron Man 1.
Yeah,
the first.
Okay, you got me there.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was talking shit, because I suddenly couldn't think of a movie that has, the beginning.
Iron Man 1, Batman, every Batman movie, you learn, hey, his parents get killed, and now he becomes rich and becomes Batman.
War of the Worlds doesn't involve his backstory.
Okay, most superhero movies, you learn.
Fair, yeah. I mean, adventuring movies, a lot of them, it's in subtle ways. Like, you'll hear in dialogue from, something of their past, and that's what gives a lot of realism.
Yeah.
And that's realistically where the backstory comes in. It's really a two-part. The first part is just realism. Like, think of any family member, think of any family friend that you have. They have a personality, they have ideals, likes and dislikes, and it's what gives. But they have these ideals and they have these just things that make them real, and that's what really, for one, it makes it easier to roleplay.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if you just sit down with a pre-made character, what you're going to end up doing is just, I would like to ask them this, I would like to say this. It's what you're doing. But when you know how that character acts, you know how they behave, you can go like, "Excuse me, madam, I'd like to talk to you about the wolf problem you were having." You know that's you're that stoic warrior.
Yeah.
You're that quiet wizard. And it lets you roleplay so much easier because you know who they are.
Yeah, that's basically why. Now, some things that us as DMs look for in a backstory. Give us some kind of, like, family names. If you have brothers and sisters, give me their names. Give parent names if it's pertinent, and grandparent names if it's pertinent. Like, you can go as far back in your family's history as you want. At where you're from, work with your DM, because you may not know their world super well if they're doing a homebrew world. Now, if they're doing in, like, Forgotten Realms and stuff like that, you can do your own research, figure that out. But always ask your DM, some towns, describe what kind of town you want your character to be from, and then explain that to your DM, and they'll give you a place to be from.
Yeah, and I think my personal thing is, I hate asking for a backstory, and I get this very cookie-cutter footnotes of the person.
Mm-hmm.
Was born here, was born to a loving family, worked on the farm, grew up and left the farm. Where's the farm from? What are they called? Having the names, having the locations means that I can now work off of that.
Yeah, it can be implanted into the world, so it makes the world seem more real to you and your character, because now you have this extra thing that you can go to this farm, and you can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm, it exists in the world, but it's far, far away. But, like, now you could be from the kingdom that you're starting in this world, and go and visit your family to get some food, get some supplies, or maybe your DM uses that as a way to kind of help your character get more invested into the story and what's going on.
And, even with you, because with our Saturday game, Ren's backstory, it gave you an opportunity to provide us resources and supplies that we need to continue the quest.
Yes.
It gives the DM, that avenue, but it gives you, the DM, an avenue to provide information, provide, quests.
Yeah.
Supplies, resources.
Yeah, so and the example he just gave is his character on the game I'm DMing, Ren. It's a blade singer, dragonborn wizard.
Who's going in a fighter because blade singing is a lot of work.
Yeah, and he's playing that he's from a noble family, and I kind of worked with him for a little bit. I gave him the name of a town that he would be from. His father would be the ruler. It's Kilderton Cross, which I feel like he's just now starting to remember.
No.
But,
it's all the other ones. I know Andendale, I know Flukeover now, and I know Kilderton Cross, and there's Port Sierra. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all of them. There's no other towns in that kingdom.
Yeah, but, so, and that kind of, it not only gave me, as a DM, a place for them to kind of be able to gather information, get resources, kind of give them a virtual home base for now. It also allowed me to implant more of Ren's personal, family background into what's going on in the story. Because now his once dead uncle came back to life for some reason.
Fucking Captain Mouse was a real piece of shit.
But yeah, you being able to utilize a lot of the character's backstory in a campaign helps a lot. Just look at, that's one of the things that makes Critical Role such a great story, is because a lot of the characters' backstories are implemented so the people can get more invested into what's going on.
And I think it's why Daniel and I, our characters in our games, they tend to click so well together, is because they're both normally very fleshed out people. Mm-hmm. Everyone else tends to play, those first few sessions, most people come with kind of a rough idea, but Daniel and I, we normally come with Reddick Brassard III, the blade-singing heroic young warrior who wants to go and prove himself before he owns his kingdom.
Yes.
We come with those powerful stories, and because they're both real, they have ideals, bonds, and personalities, they tend to immediately get drawn together because of how just fleshed out they are. I think that's a big reason why every single game him and I play together, both our characters end up working side by side.
Yeah, and another good thing that the backstory does give, it gives your character a purpose in life. Is one thing that you should really try to find. Why is your character out adventuring? Are they just trying to make money? Are they why are they trying to make money? Are they just trying to get rich? Do they have a debt to pay off? Is there a family medical bill they gotta pay?
Yeah.
Are they just trying to prove themselves? Or are they trying to stay away from their family because they've got something going on in there that they want to avoid? Stuff like that. It gives you a chance to give your character a motivation.
And that's normally actually a really great place to start to make a backstory.
Yes.
Why backstories end when session 1 begins.
Yes.
So the way you start that story, the way you begin that backstory is, no matter what the DM says, you were on a wagon delivering gems to the king. Mm-hmm. Why is your character there? Now, most of you, the viewers, are going to say to get paid. We're adventurers. We're here to make a fucking dollar.
Yeah.
But why? Why do you need money? Because, think of how much, I think the average player starts with about 10, 15 gold. It's a pretty average starting.
Yeah, 10 to 15 gold.
That's several paychecks. Your character's walking around with $30,000 in their pocket.
Yeah.
What do they need money for? And that's what I think, for your example is, to pay off a debt. Maybe you stole a ring from the rogue pickpocketed the wrong guy.
Yeah.
And now he owes money. Why? Well, that person. And then if you keep working backwards from why you're there in the first place, you'll end up with a fleshed out character. you'll end up with, just off the top of my head with that scenario, you now have a thievish rogue who lives with his family in the town, and he pickpocketed the wrong person. Mm-hmm. So now, to protect his family, he has to rush out in the next few months and make as much money as possible to keep making those payments, so his family doesn't get killed in the city.
Yeah.
And just like that, you now have a great purpose for this rogue. Now this rogue can start stealing, thieving, doing everything a rogue does, and has a really good reason why.
Yeah.
And now the party...
It's no longer, I'm doing it because that's what my character would do. It's, you have a reason to do it. You were trying to get this money so that you can pay a debt.
Yeah, and it's so cool because now, in the party aspect, as a whole group, you can now give them little hints. Maybe you're the normal rogue, like you're just kind of flirty and very scheming and tapping your hands together. Mm-hmm. But maybe if they keep stopping you from stealing stuff, you start showing a little desperation, a little panic. Maybe you're begging for that thing. You have to sell it. Now you're drawing them into your story, and now you have this. No matter the campaign, the gems to the king, whatever the main story is, you now have this little side thing forming of maybe the group is now going to try to help you. Probably end up murder that guy, is how most campaigns are going to probably end up going.
I would say that's about 90% of the time.
How are we going to end up killing the guy you owe money to?
Yeah, because a lot of PCs are very greedy with their money. They want to keep that money so they can buy shiny stuff, not so that they can pay a debt off.
Yeah, so now the party's going to want to go kill him because that's convenient. But now that now your character is explained. So now all the thieving and all of that is really in person. It's what my character would do was no longer that terrible, overarching nonsense. It can be played well as to now that's a real person. Now this rogue is hiding themselves.
Yes.
Hiding that desperation and that panic with the witticisms, the snarky comments, the stealing and the sleeping around.
Yeah.
That's them hiding how they feel.
Another good motivation is personal growth. I have my character Roderick that I play sometimes. I've never been able to play him in a full extended campaign. But his whole motivation is he's trying to find his purpose in life. He was adopted by a sailor, sailed on the boat. He's a Triton, but he was adopted, and now his whole goal in life is to please his goddess Thassa, who is the goddess of the sea in Magic: The Gathering.
Fucking nerd.
And that's his whole thing. So the backstories like that, where like you can basically in the game create these enemies and find your reason to exist. Or in that same campaign I played Kristoff, where it was as simple as, hey, my ex-wife happens to live in the city. And it creates this whole side story, side quest thing going on that, it'll keep all the other people at the table like, what's he doing? Where is he going? Why is he walking away? Things like that, where now I have something I'm doing to keep myself personally invested.
Didn't Kristoff die on the way to his ex-wife's house?
Yes, Kristoff died because during the riots because he heard the riots were getting close to his ex-wife's house. And that's how he died.
Just wanted to bring that up into the world.
Yep, that was a very depressing ending to the story for him.
Died on the way to your ex-wife's house. What a bad tombstone.
Yeah.
It's a rough one. So let's say, Jordan, to answer the question our viewers are asking us right now, they're screaming it at their handheld devices at this moment right now. How do I make a backstory?
Yeah.
Let's say right now, tomorrow we're starting a session. You're on a wagon, getting paid money to bring the king gems from a mysterious benefactor. How do you where do you go? How do you make that backstory for that campaign? How do you start?
Okay, well, how would I become contacted by the mysterious benefactor? Let's see. So generally, I start with what do I feel like playing? What class? What race? What do I want to play? So I'll use just quickly off the top of my head. I want my net character. In his backstory, so he's trying to impress somebody, or not impress somebody. He's trying to get from under the shadow of his brother. That was just something I just throw out there. His brother is this, supposedly better, stronger, better tracker than he is. Creating that first thing. That's what I usually do, is come up with like a family tie and why, and then use that to figure out why he would be, in town. And very much go with the yes and idea of, okay, I'm in town. I came in contact with this mysterious benefactor. Yes, and I'm also trying to find somebody, and I'm trying to impress my brother, get from under his shadow, work towards that.
Make your own way in the world.
Yeah, make my own way in the world, which there's a lot more going on with that character's backstory.
Right. But that means that, this character, I'm not going to see them throwing themselves at probably things above their capabilities.
Yes.
Trying to prove something. They're going to take those risks. They're going to go jumping into the cave to kill the dragon because they think that's the way through.
Yeah, and he's very much like, in that he's trying to get the mysterious benefactor deliver gems to the king, or whatever your idea was. His whole motivation isn't strictly money. It's, I'm trying to show that I am useful to the world beyond what my brother says.
And as the DM, off the bat, I already have so much to work with. I now know that out there is this brother who I can use to control you.
Yes.
Maybe he's getting paid by the bad guy. Maybe he is the bad guy. Maybe he is killed and replaced. I now have this person to play with.
Yes.
I now have a reason that I can now, to throw a wrench in the campaign and make some strife in the storyline, is, let's say the party is very reserved. If I give them that, we need someone to kill this dragon, your guy's going to be like, man, I want to kill the dragon. Like, my brother hasn't killed the dragon before, so now I have something to pull you from the party and maybe drag them up a side story.
Yes.
Off just where you're at. And that's where, I just wanted to point out to all the viewers.
Yeah. Yeah, giving your character a flaw and giving an adversary is huge. For his example, it's a brother. I have another character, Natalie, where her main adversary is the same yes, but in her story, some stuff happened, and now she is in a debt to a genie who is giving her powers. She's the genie warlock from Tasha's. So she's in debt to that genie, and the genie's giving her powers, but she's also extremely pissed off at that genie. So that genie is both good and bad for her.
Yeah, and then, and then now as a path, I can either make that genie a real piece of shit and make you hate him, and then I can toss in, maybe there's a very nice guy who'd be happy to break you of that contract. Mm-hmm. But now that guy shattered all contracts, and there are warlocks running around with no power, and now there are gods running around with no clerics and warlocks.
Yeah.
And now the whole story is that dude and you just caused that.
Yeah.
There's so many ways, and that's why backstories. I mean, he didn't write me half a page here. He wrote a few sentences, but
that's literally a few sentences.
But just giving that information, and as the DM, I want to get the brother's a really good one. The brother's name, probably a city you're from, a city the brother works at. Mm-hmm. Just getting a little bit of information means that I can now move these little tokens around it. Maybe the brother's heading south. Maybe the brother is the benefactor, and he doesn't know you're there, and that's going to cause strife when something happens. Maybe it was planned, and that brother now has to panic and try to save you, and you're going to get so pissed when he saves you because here comes Big Brother again, coming to clean your fuck up.
Yeah, yeah, and not only clean your fuck up, but you have to now in character deal with what does your character feel about that, stuff like that, and being able to look at your character's backstory, seeing if something like this happened before, how your character would feel.
Yeah, and how you would act and how you'd roleplay that scene of the brother coming in and pulling you from the burning wagon or whatever that situation might be.
Yeah.
I do a pretty similar thing. I call it the backwards why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm on the wagon. You're DMing. I'm off to bring the gems. Why? Well, you know, I wanted to play a life cleric, so I'm there because I'm a mercenary doctor. I'm a healer, and I thought the best way to do that would to be on the front lines, helping the adventurers, those who are in need.
Yes.
And adventurers go town to town. It's a perfect way to get paid and go out there. Well, why do I think that? Why do I think that's the best way? And you just work back. So you start at where you're on the wagon, and you work back while you're there. And just by following that backwards path, you gather, you get your ideals.
Yeah.
While you're there, you normally get an adversary. If you're a cleric, you can work the god into why it's in there, like with Yena, this is clearly based off of. Maybe you recognize the whole mercenary doctor lady
mm-hmm.
who carries a frying pan. With that whole story, I'm able to work in all those little bits. And by the end of it, I have a decent backstory. I have adversaries. I have... I never actually did go into her flaw too much. Her anger management.
You did a little bit.
It was never explained too
well. It was never explained, but it did show a lot.
Yeah, like when the bandits kept interrupting her sleep, she would hit overhead the frying pan. And she held one, stepped on one in the dirt, screaming at the bandits to come out so she can hit. She wants to finish this encounter. She can go back to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was fun. But I think, none of these are insane backstories. None of these are, none of these backstories, none of them are insane. None of them are these super elaborate stories that are, just beautifully crafted stories of legend. They're just, we've not even had a quarter page yet.
Yeah,
these backstories.
All those are the footnote, more or less just who, what, when, real quick. And then you use those to come up with your half a page to a page.
Yeah, and then the DM can work with you a little bit. Again, I feel like every episode we do is going to end up with, we'll work with your DM a little bit.
Yeah, always work with your DM. That at the end of the day, it's D&D is a collaborative storytelling game.
I'm not reading you a book.
Yeah, if you don't work with your DM to come up with these ideas and these concepts, number one, if your DM doesn't even know about it, your DM's not going to add this into the game to let you become more personalized into it. And then you're also not going to get these fleshed out. You're not going to feel involved with what's going on. It's going to... Something, as a DM, I struggle with is trying to come up with ways to make sure that all the players at the table have something going on for themselves.
And sometimes they don't give you nothing to work with.
Yeah, and that's, at the end of the day, if you don't create a backstory, the DM doesn't have anything to work with, and they're going to work with what they have. If they don't have a story to work, for you, they're going to do the other player's story.
And now you're an NPC and these three people who are off to go save their mom.
Yeah. And that's one of the really nice things is, you don't even have to have a tragic backstory, For the love of God, let parents be alive. That's one of those that I hate. I've run a few games outside of what I run for our normal group.
You whore.
And I had the one game I ran, every single person had dead parents.
Oh yeah, they're always dead parents. They were always betrayed by their bandit or their pirate group.
Mm-hmm.
They were always it's always tragic. Yena's wasn't. Yena had she was an orphan.
Yeah.
But that was not that was specifically to tie into why she wants to help people so much. But that wasn't her being super sad and edgy. That was just she was born with that's how her life was.
Yeah.
The whole rest of her backstory was all just. There was the building that caught fire and she had saved the people. So I guess that's a little dark. I wouldn't say that was edgy.
Yeah.
That was her saving someone. But the rest of it was
shit. Yeah, but the building catching on fire is your original character's motivation.
Yeah, that was I want to say that's how her god came into play.
Yeah.
But the god spoke to her and used her to save people in the building.
Yeah, and then Dilthin, his whole story of why he was out adventuring was he didn't know what he was doing with his life. He was just kind of existing, going every day, hunting,
and
trying.
Killed him and turned him into a gnome.
Yeah, and so he didn't have a purpose in life, and he was more or less starting to get a little bit depressed with it. So he went out and started adventuring. Came across this group of chuckle fucks and
got arrested.
Yeah,
and it's a good thing. Dying and coming back as a weird talking gnome
turned him into an alcoholic.
Is perfect for depression. And one thing is, another thing with backstories is it unbelievably can secretly help a DM because we don't have everything fleshed out.
No, never.
But if you come to me and you say that your parents own a massive farmland to the north of this town, and because of it, your family formed their own town, hours north of the main city. I now have a farming town up there. I now have something there.
Yeah,
and I can work off it. And most DMs are going to be thrilled if you sit down and go, "Hey, can we look over the map and talk about where my guy's from?" Fucking yes, I'll order pizza. Like, please.
Yeah.
Like we built
Peter.
Yeah, Peter, he's from the town of North Pass.
Yeah.
And now, because of your town, we formed a whole backstory on it.
Yeah, because that town didn't originally exist.
Yeah, it wasn't. But now North Pass is the non-political border of these two warring nations. And, this town formed all because you wanted to be near a volcano.
Yeah, near the volcano that's near the battlefield of what these two countries are fighting over.
Yeah, just going over it helps us build the world because your backstory adds to it.
Yeah. So
if your backstory is you're from this town and your dad's an assassin, well, now this town has an assassin, and I can now work from that, and the world gets more and more real. The more real players and real backstories you put into a world, the more that world grows. That's why I like using the same kind of world, like the same overall, not like a continent, like an actual world with continents and nations. Putting campaigns in different parts of that really helps you slowly flesh out, the campaign. Because what's going to happen is, as the DM, as the world builder, and we said it last time, but we'll get into world building in depth.
Yeah, it's going to be like a 12-part episode. It feels like.
But I think it was you. You asked what town would have like a kind of less reputable mercenaries.
Yeah.
So now, okay, I guess this town. Well, now this town has less. So now it adds to the story. Now that town has a reputation. It has probably a black market, probably black weapons dealers.
Yeah. And then beyond all of that, you as the player, you now can write that, and you can also further flesh out people's names from that town. You can, and at the end of the day, you can also start to claim this world as your own. You understand what's going on.
Yeah, it becomes your town.
Yeah.
So when I have a player who's if someone's a player, if someone's from that town, they normally run the show while they're in there. They'd be like, yeah, I know this. Like, oh, we can go check out this tavern. I love to go. Oh, my mom makes a great stew.
Yeah, and it allows that player to have a spotlight.
Yeah, and it gives them a really fun session of, running around. Unless you're like me and you have a player that has the bounty hunter background. They have a cutting in every single city, and I gave them an alcoholic barbarian dwarf that burned his wife's house down. So they show up and he's like just drunk, and the player's like, "How's the wife?" He's like, "Oh, she's gone. Burp. I handled it." And the party's like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm gonna go lay down, and it's just so now there's just that happened.
Yeah, but that adds intrigue, and that adds
Bo Rogan, the barbarian dwarf.
Yeah, it just
Bo Rogan.
It just adds an interesting story, because now the players also have this conundrum of, okay, you can assume what's going on based off of that conversation.
They totally ignored him and kept going. They adopted him into the party, and off they went.
Yeah, but that is one route they can go, but they can also be like, okay, well, Do we turn this guy in?
No. As a DM, the second you put an NPC in the world, assume the party's going to some way take him.
Frederick.
David.
Yeah.
The 16-year-old bandit you kidnapped.
Yeah.
And bullied verbally. You hit like a bitch.
Yeah. And Frederick...
that's was a really good example.
Like, Frederick was this lonely hill giant it was a random encounter. Like, they were meant to fight and probably kill this thing.
Fuck
but
you're probably.
And
we're like level 2.
Yeah. But, they all band together, had some really good rolls, and befriended this giant. And now one of the PCs is getting married to this giant.
Now there's a wedding. The druid's making a dress.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
As a DM, ways you can motivate your players to create backstories. If they're not motivated to make a backstory on their own in terms of getting themselves more invested in their character. One thing that I heard, I think I learned this from Matt Mercer. Again, Matt Mercer, the god of all DMs, praise be.
Shout out to Matt Mercer.
Tell your players, hey, you give me half a page typed up on Google Docs of backstory, you can pick an uncommon, non-combat magic item to start with your character.
From now on, I can stop writing backstories. In exchange, you'll bribe me.
I think the next campaign I start, that's what I'm going to be doing, is bribing the players.
I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, because it's one thing that I struggle with is... In my current Saturday game, I love you guys if you're listening. I've only gotten 2 backstories typed up.
I'm one of them.
Now, so after you get your half a page, or, if your player doesn't really, even with the motivation of getting an item, have the motivation, ask them to give the bare minimum. Now, Ethan, what do you think is the bare minimum you need?
I feel like we actually covered it when we kind of did that quick little improv firing off of a backstory.
Yeah.
As a DM, if I personally, my bare minimum to work from would be, first off, people you know in a friendly manner. It could be professional, could be personal. Like mom, dad, and the guy that ran the general store that you worked with when you were a kid. Mm-hmm. Great start. Now, I can work from that, mom and dad, just kind of like tell me who they are, and even just their name, actually. Just from that, I can work as a DM, as a world builder, I can go from there. And, even if a player struggles that much where they struggled for those 3 people, that means that they're not getting drawn in enough. And I feel like even if they give me one name, I can put that one person in danger, and that might be the hook to pull them in to make them act. That might be it.
Yeah.
But the first off, I need people you like.
Yeah.
Mom, dad, brother.
Yeah, give that collateral that the DM can hang over your head to draw your character in.
Yeah, or they can just be there to help you, for those rare moments that as a DM, you guys are stuck, and I need some way to naturally give you a hint. The opposite effect of that is I need an adversary, someone you're against, your brother, maybe a rival arms dealer for the evil rogue, an evil business, or the local bully, or in my little rogue story, that guy you owe money to when you pick out the Sea Souls ring, just someone who you're against.
Yes.
And the last one, and I think personally, this is the biggest one, is what we said, why you're there.
Yeah.
Why are you going on this quest? Why are you here? In a non-rude way. Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
What? As a DM, the hardest thing, like you said, the hardest thing for us to do is give you a reason to keep going. Like, why are you going to want to go kill wolves at the farm? But you're not going to want to. So if I give you these handful of things and you don't want to do them, well, fucking, now what? Mm-hmm. What can I do to pull you in? And, money's great, but it sucks to just hand you money for no reason.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a super cool DM like me and I take all your starting gold. That one's fun.
Yeah. I did that to you guys too on Saturdays.
I can make you do really dumb stuff and like go calm down angry bears in barns. Shout out to old Pooter. Big fan of Pooter. Yeah, just a reason that you're there, and it could be that like it's probably honestly an endless list of why you could be adventuring. A few of mine were, I guess, Pippi. He was adventuring because he was an old retired city guard. He was tired of people getting away with bad stuff.
Yep.
His whole bit was vengeance. He was out there to stop people, and not just bad guys, stop people who he thought was doing wrong. He was a pretty vicious guy. Yeah. He stacked bodies. He was not a lawful good paladin. But I think, actually, he probably was, really. If we go into the alignment, different episode, he followed that pretty close. The reason he was there was to stop the bad guys from getting away.
I feel like Pippi was neutral good.
Yeah, especially because his whole, who his god was, really would be a little chaotic. Shout out to Hor, big fan of him.
Yep.
Good guy. Not his little goblin friend. He was annoying.
Yeah.
Lorna was out there. That's right, Lorna. She was out there because she wanted to prove to herself that she was a good ranger before she was a fighter.
Yes.
That's why she latched onto that dragon she saw pretty early on. She was the hunter who wanted to bag the big one. Mm-hmm. That was her bit. And then it changed into kind of that rugged dragon slayer. And honestly, all my characters, she probably had the biggest arc for her. Yena wanted to go help people because hers was very, very simple. She wanted to go help people. She wanted to heal them and make good food. Ren's probably my favorite one. We're playing them now, but Ren's probably my favorite one. I know I said it real quick earlier on, but his whole bit is he needs proof to himself that he's worthy. We mentioned Rennick Brassard the third or fourth. Apparently, I can't do Roman numerals well. He is the son of a nobleman, a man that owns, I think they're called, not Jarl, Lord, I guess would be.
Yeah, he's the Lord of Kilderton Cross.
Yeah, the Lord of Kilderton Cross. Dad's getting old. Dad's about to retire, and obviously, him being the only son, he's going to now be the Lord. And Ren's whole family were these very heroic heroes. They fought in, I think the backstory, they fought in a bunch of the actual book campaigns. Mm-hmm. So I think I kind of put them like little Easter eggs in different, like they were a part of the parties in these little campaigns. Yeah. So they were killing, fighting gods and demons and saving Neverwinter from the Necromancer Valindra. And he was born after all the heroics, so he was just a nobleman's kid. Everyone calls him sir, everyone's real polite, and he has to prove to himself, hold on, I haven't earned this yet, I have to earn this. Yeah. And now he's sad and depressed. Because you're kind of beating him into the ground, emotional-wise. Yes. And that's his story, is he is just out there, his is probably really tiered in why he's there. He's there to do good. He's there to help people. But that's kind of the big overarching Venn diagram of why he's there. Yeah. And in every single one of these cases, you DM'd 3 of those people. And every single one of those cases, you were able to use that to pull them in somewhere. Yeah. You pulled Pippi into the Flower Crest cave to give him the sword and kind of push him forward. You pulled Yena. She became almost a messiah in the world. She was real close to walking around with her disciples. And Ren now is, he's the spotlight of the campaign. He's the group leader.
Yeah, and that's all because you gave me a backstory to work off.
So I think if that's at the bare minimum, if I had to sit down, session 1, I need something, why are you here? Yeah. Is the bare minimum backstory, and from that, it's honestly probably the easiest to fill the rest. Is why you're there. You can fill in, supporting characters and cast, your family, your friends.
Yeah. One other big thing that, looking at a lot of my character backstories, how old is your character? Because that can kind of play into the maturity and help you think, okay, if you're playing a really mature character, but they're 18, why are they mature at such a young age? Did something happen? They've probably been through something. Yeah, they probably been through some shit or, stuff like that. So it helps you, just getting your, why you're there and your age. You can use that to just build infinite ideas.
I know it's unrelated, but quick mindless rant. please pick height and weights for your character as a DM.
Yeah.
It's important. It's because in my brain, age is right there next to the rest of the information. That can also that's just honestly the only reason I have you do it is so I can have like rope bridges break and stuff.
Yeah, because
the only reason I use it for honestly is stuff breaking underneath your weight. Little tirade, please pick it, and please Google average height and weight for your characters. I had like a 200-pound tabaxi on one of my games.
Yeah, it's in the book too.
I mean, if you Google kobold average lifespan, kobold average weight, kobold average height, you'll get all the numbers there.
Yeah. Well, that's all we had for today's episode.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. That's what I asked.
If you like the episode or you didn't and you just want to complain, you can give us a follow at our Twitter, which is at Locked in a Shed, and our Instagram is at Locked in a Shed with underscores for spaces. And then I also have my personal Twitter, which is at JDSky10. Because JD Sky was taken. We also have a YouTube channel that we upload on for now until I get Spotify figured out.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, you're already on our YouTube channel.
Yes, but
so follow while you're there.
Yeah, please like,
subscribe, and hit that motherfucking notification bell to join the shed, guys.
Yeah, and also leave a comment because the interaction really helps with algorithm stuff.
And being locked in the shed, there's very little we can do, so
we
like to attach ourselves to the handful of comments we get.
Yes, it's very depressing in here, but
I found a bug.